What's happening, guys? Cowboy here, and today I wanted to bring you a video pulling together all of my thoughts regarding E3 2018. So I'd say that this is definitely one of the most hyped up E3s we have had probably ever. Just looking at the various titles that have been announced, we have an absolutely phenomenal gaming lineup coming, and so today I'm going to go through everything that we heard about, at least everything that I'm interested in. If I forget something, just make a comment down below and I'll try to answer it. And either way, let's get things kicked off. So the first thing I want to talk about are my big boys, what titles I am most excited for, and of course number one at the top of that list is going to be Nioh 2. Now Nioh is a game that when I first played the original demo I was not a fan of it, and then when release came and I got more into it and I began to get deeper and deeper, it quickly became one of my all-time favorite games. It had the challenge in combat that we basically fell in love with in Souls. It had kind of the fast-paced, very visceral nature that you would see in something like Ninja Gaiden, and then it had a bit of that loot grind that I love so much in Diablo. So pulling together like three of my favorite things and putting them into one package was something that, you know, I was bound to fall in love with. So the prospect of more of that is something I'm very excited for. Especially because now that it's been confirmed that there is going to be some type of yokai type mode included. We're going to have character creation, and I think probably the thing I'm most excited about is in the dev interview at least they said that, and I quote, "Now that we know what we're doing, the gloves are off." And to me, that says that this game is going to be everything I could ever want in a Nioh game. So definitely something I'm really excited for. Number two on my list is going to be Sekiro. Now obviously this is confirmed to not be a Soul-like, but I'm actually really excited to see what From Software is going to do with this title. Based on what we know now about the combat system and the mechanics, we know that there is a resurrection system in place. We know that instead of your kind of traditional whack at each other's health bars type approach as we have with Dark Souls, it's going to be a much more technical system now that has a heavy emphasis on basically parrying and kind of maintaining your character's poise, his posture. And I think just based on the way they described it, and you know, there's some dev interviews out there with more info if you guys want to look into it, but the combat system sounds very, very interesting. Nothing like what I thought it would be with God of War. Obviously it's going to be more of a single player total approach like God of War, but a very unique combat system, and it has me kind of curious to see what they can do. I think an important thing to consider here is, for a while now, From Software has kind of become synonymous with Souls, you know, Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Demon Souls, and you know, that's all people want from them. And the reality is, From Software they're more than just Souls. You know, they have a pretty rich history. Personally, my favorite From Software games are the Armored Core franchise. I was actually hoping we get one announced at E3, but unfortunately I guess that's not on the horizon just yet. But regardless, the point is, I'm really curious to see what they'll be able to do with a you know, single player oriented, very targeted and focused adventure. I think we're going to get something that ends up being a phenomenal end product. So number three on my most anticipated is actually an update, and in this case it's going to be the Marching Fire update we're getting this October for For Honor. For Honor is a game that I was incredibly hyped for at launch. I kind of got burnt out on it due to issues, and over the last 2 years they have really taken the game and put the TLC in that it needed. I mean, we got the dedicated servers, there's been a huge amount of balancing updates done, and all in all they took it from what was an excellent concept but poor product, and they really polished it up and turned it into something that is thoroughly enjoyable. I mean, if you guys attend the streams, you know that on a weekly basis, almost every single week now, I have For Honor happening at least once, and you know, I'm having fun the entire time I'm playing it. There's no more shitty DCs. Like, the balance is to the point where there's not that one character that's going to make me rage every time I fight it. And the prospect of, one, having a siege mode introduced, which looks phenomenal from what we've seen, and then two, Chinese warriors. Like, dude, I grew up playing Dynasty Warriors, so seeing characters from that era introduced into a game that I absolutely love now, I mean, it just blew my mind. Like, seeing the reveal and seeing, you know, the Wan Yu lookalike guy come out and the Shaolin monk with the staff, like, you know, I was jumping up and down like a little kid at Christmas. I was actually out at a bar getting lunch when it came on, and I had to walk outside. I just like walked out. I was like, nope, can't be in here. Walked outside, put my phone up to max volume, and was just like, fucking no way. I was losing it. So definitely looking forward to that. Last thing I want to make honorable mention of before we jump into a list of all the things that were announced is the stuff coming out for Monster Hunter. Obviously, Behemoth update with the Monster Hunter Final Fantasy XIV crossover. That looks like it's going to be freaking awesome. And then on top of that, of course, this is a bit of old news, but we obviously have Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate confirmed for the Switch. So some really cool things on that front. But moving on from here, I plan on just basically going through and kind of discussing the titles that I have interest in terms of how they appeared. So we're going to be going through EA, Bethesda, Microsoft, Ubisoft, Sony, and then Nintendo in order. So first up on the list for EA is Anthem. Now I think this is a game a lot of people have had their eyes on for a while. And for a couple of reasons. You know, one, it's BioWare, which is a studio that I'd say is pretty well respected. BioWare has a lot of really good titles under their belt, namely the Mass Effect franchise and then the Dragon Age franchise, and they're a company that I've come to really like. And Anthem is a big departure from what we're used to in terms of the type of titles that BioWare makes. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are apprehensive because EA has always had a bad reputation, but recently they have really been just shitting on their customers with microtransactions, and it makes for an extremely worrying prospect when it comes to Anthem. And I will say that there are reports that supposedly the game will have no loot boxes, and the only microtransactions that are in it will be cosmetic. But we heard this same shit with Battlefront 2, and look what happened there. So, to be honest, anything that comes out of EA's mouth, take not with a grain of salt, take it with a bag of salt, because they are known to pull the rug out and shit in their customers' eyes. And it really makes me concerned. Moving on from there, the gameplay at least looks really cool. It's kind of like a combination of Destiny meets Monster Hunter. But the one thing that has me slightly worried is kind of how heavily they emphasize multiplayer. They said that it's going to be, you know, it's a single player hub in a multiplayer world, and you can play the whole thing single player, but you know, almost all the footage we've seen so far has this big emphasis on team play, and you know, you can play solo, but with your team you'll be able to do this, and you know, with the big mech he can go through the stuff, and then you can use this person to scout ahead and blah blah blah, but if you're by yourself you can't do that, and it kind of worries me a little bit, because a game like this, I mean, it'll obviously be more fun to play this with others, but I don't want to feel like I'm at a significant disadvantage if I am playing solo. Not to say I will be, but you know, if my buddies aren't around and I want to jump in and dick around for an hour, I don't want it to be a drag to accomplish stuff because my friends aren't there, and right now I kind of got that feeling based on what I saw of the gameplay. So while I am excited for Anthem, as of now, I'm going to remain cautiously optimistic. Now, there wasn't much else from EA that caught my interest, kind of to be expected. However, the EA original Sea of Solitude is something that I definitely have my eyes on now. In general, I usually tend to avoid games that go into discussing mental health just because I don't really feel gaming is the appropriate medium for that discussion, but you know, with very light undertones of like self-discovery and a little bit of, you know, depression, the whole when we become alone we turn into monsters kind of thing, I feel like it's something I could get behind. Just based on the trailer at least, you know, the cell shade look and the high density of colors and whatnot, it looks like it'll be a very beautiful game to play. The gameplay looks like it's going to be kind of platformy, puzzly based, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but based on what we've seen so far, it looks like it'll have a compelling enough story to jump into. So right now, at least, that is something on my checklist to get into when it's released. But moving on from there, up next we had Bethesda. Now Bethesda had a couple of big announcements, but not every single one of them interested me. Obviously Elder Scrolls Legends has the new UI updates and all that coming out, but I was already aware of that, being pretty involved in that game as is, so obvious excitement there. In terms of new titles, Rage 2 actually looked pretty awesome. having not played the original Rage, I wasn't sure what to expect, and I kind of got a bit of a Doom vibe, if you will, based on the fast pace. Like, when I think of the more recent Bethesda shooters, you know, we obviously have Doom, and then we have Wolfenstein. And from what I saw of Rage 2, I felt more Doom than Wolfenstein, which is good, because Doom was one of my, I mean, it's probably my favorite first-person shooter ever, the new Doom. It's phenomenal. It is everything I want in a first-person shooter game. Whereas Wolfenstein I enjoyed, but it was very hide behind cover, pop out and shoot, hide behind cover, pop out and shoot, and I absolutely hate that type of playstyle in a first-person shooter. And since Rage is more performer, I think I will enjoy Rage 2 quite a lot. And on the note of Doom, Doom fucking Eternal, let's go! New Doom game? Hell yeah! The last Doom game was phenomenal! As I just said, probably one of my favorite FPS games of all time, if not my favorite. Actually, let's just say it is my favorite, because thinking about other FPS games, I barely play first-person shooters. But the reboot of Doom was a fucking grand slam, knocked out of the park. It's fast-paced, it's fun, it's engaging. I mean, I know we did a drunk-through of it, and I was just fucking slaying demons and pounding beers, and I was going off, man. It was so much fun. I had a blast playing it. So Doom Eternal, fuck yeah, man. Let's go. Moving on from there, Fallout 76. Now, full disclosure, I am not a giant Fallout fan. I like Elder Scrolls a lot more. If I had to choose between, you know, something in the Elder Scrolls universe or something in the Fallout universe, I obviously take the former. And with that, I'm not sure what my plans will be with Fallout 76. It looks interesting. At first, I was kind of apprehensive about the concept of multiplayer Fallout, but after seeing the gameplay and seing everyone like work to take down monsters and build a community together, I'm like, you know, this could be kind of cool. But I'm not sure. I don't really know. More than likely, let's just say that I'm going to play it. I'm not sure if I'll end up sticking with it for a very long time, but in the very least, I will be checking it out, probably playing it with some folks and, you know, seeing where things go from there. Elder Scrolls Blades, lol, I'm not going to talk about it. It's a mobile game. If I want to play a mobile game, I'll play Elder Scrolls Legends. And then from there, we had Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. Now, I mean, obviously, these are both games I'm excited to see, but to be frank, guys, we saw like 30-second teasers of each. Not much to go on at all. But given that it is Bethesda, I expect them to be AAA high-quality titles, and I expect to spend hundreds of hours playing them. But moving on from there, next up on the list we had Microsoft's conference. Now, Microsoft had quite a few things unveiled. A couple of these items aren't necessarily Microsoft exclusives, but as we learned about them there, this is where I'm going to discuss them. First up, Halo Infinite. Now, I grew up playing Halo. I didn't like some of the more recent ones, like Reach. I did like the most recent one. But the thing is, right now, you know, very much the same as Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, I have no idea what Infinite's going to be. It's very much just a teaser. I did like the last Halo game a lot. I had a blast playing it. Didn't do any of the multiplayer, but I've always kind of played Halo for the story. I actually really enjoyed the lore in the Halo universe, so more than likely I'll be playing Infinite. Metro Exodus looks really cool. Now, I have no experience with Metro games. I have some of them. Ron actually bought me one for Christmas, and I just haven't played it yet because I haven't been able to get it to work with OBS, but the setting at least, and the pacing and whatnot, it looked like it was a really badass game. So, especially if I find time to jump into the prior entries of Metro in advance, Exodus will potentially be something that's up on the table. Big one a lot of you guys have been asking about, Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, I played Kingdom Hearts 1, I played Kingdom Hearts 2. That was ages ago. Like, ages. I mean, if you think about it, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out in 2005. That's freaking 8. That's almost, let's see, what is that? That's 10 to 13 years ago? Yeah, 13 fucking years ago. That's a long time. A long time. I have not played any of the others. I've not played like 1.5, 2.5, 2.8. Waffle Pancake Breakfast Remix Edition. So I don't know. More than likely, am I going to play Kingdom Hearts 3? Yeah, probably. Just because it's a huge AAA release. If I don't do it, people will disown me. I mean, it has Pirates of the Caribbean in it. You know, what's not to love? Will I replay all the Kingdom Hearts games before Kingdom Hearts 3? Probably not. But more than likely, I will jump into 3 and probably get like a refresher course since it's been so long. Speaking of things it's been so long with, Devil May Cry 5, another one. I know I had a lot of people getting especially butthurt on the Devil May Cry trailer. They're like, you don't freaking play Devil May Cry, you're not a real fan. Devil May Cry 4 was 10 fucking years ago. I barely remember what I had for lunch yesterday, let alone details about a game that I played 10 years ago. And the other thing you guys got to keep in mind here is that running a YouTube channel and playing games constantly, like trying to remember all the shit I got to remember for walkthroughs, I'm gonna forget characters unless they were the most memorable thing ever, like Dante. But Nero, I mean, Nero had one game. Of course I'm gonna forget about Nero. But anyway, back on topic here. Devil May Cry 5 does look good. I absolutely despise the new supporting character, fake redneck porta potty girl. But, you know, there's time for change. Maybe they'll get a different voice actor that fits her a little bit more. But it does look pretty sweet. I like the new look of Dante. Find out why Nero is getting his arm taken away. Should be a good time. May replay the Devil May Cry HD collection in preparation for that. We'll see. Moving on from there, Cuphead DLC. Fuck yes, let's go. Cuphead was a game that I ended up falling in love with. In general, I don't like platformers. I very rarely play platformers, which kind of on that note, don't be surprised if I don't cover the new Mega Man because I don't like platformers. But I mean, the art direction with Cuphead, the music, it all came together to form an absolutely amazing product, and I will definitely be playing the DLC. Moving forward from there, the next big reveal was Jump Force Anime Crossover. Obviously, tons of people hyped for this. You know, I'll end up playing it, but I'm going to be honest, guys, this isn't anything new. There's a lot of articles where people are like, this is the most ambitious anime crossover of all time. Like, have y'all never heard of a Jump game? Jump Superstars, J-Stars, all that stuff? Like the J-Stars Victory Versus I did on the channel? The J in J-Stars stands for Jump. The same Jump in Jump Force, which stands for Shonen Jump, the manga that all this stuff is published in Japan. I'm going to play the shit out of it because it's anime and I'm a huge weeb, but to be honest, these games usually aren't the best. This is nothing new. They're just, you know, that's kind of the nature of the game with crossovers. So just, you know, go into it not expecting the best thing ever. You're playing it for anime hype, not because it is going to be the birth of the new best fighting game ever made. Moving on from there, Dying Light 2, I had a couple people asking me about this. I mean, I'll be honest, the first Dying Light was, it was okay. Like, it was how I would describe a perfectly average game. There was nothing about Dying Light that left me thinking it was amazing. There was nothing that I remember that was particularly memorable, you know? Like, it was just, I played it and I beat it, and you know, I don't know. Like, I feel like we kind of hit this point where, like, you know, enough is enough with the zombie games, and, you know, some cases, like Days Gone looks like it'll be a pretty interesting zombie game, but I'm not sure Dying Light really has what I want. I'll probably play it, but, you know, I'm not going to get hyped over it. Moving on from there, Battletoads, lol. I don't think anybody told Microsoft that was a meme. Gears 5, fuck yes. Played the last Gears, loved it. I'll play Gears 5 and I'll love it. You can't, I never get tired of Gears of War. Just more chainsaw and murder, and it looks, I mean, it looks like what I would expect for Gears, and there's nothing wrong with that. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I like Gears. And then the final thing we saw at the Microsoft presentation, probably the biggest, Cyberpunk. Now, Cyberpunk initially, I figured it was going to be like a first person, or not, excuse me, like a third person, you know, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was thinking something kind of like GTA, and we're finding out that Cyberpunk 2077 is actually a first person role-playing game with FPS elements. So think along the lines of Fallout, you know, where it's about the interactions and the choices and all of that, and then after the fact, it happens to be a shooter. But from what I've heard with Cyberpunk, instead of, you know, where Fallout very much, first it's an RPG, then it's a shooter, my understanding is that Cyberpunk is the same, but the shooter aspect is supposedly extremely well done. We're talking like wall running, fast-paced, in-your-face action, kind of what we got out of Doom. And if you were to take the first-person gameplay of Doom and combine it with an RPG, that is totally something I could get into. So as of now, Cyberpunk is, you know, potentially in my give it to me now category, but because it's a brand new IP, and because I have not seen game footage myself, for the time being, I am going to keep my hype at a respectable level. I'm not going to go ejaculating all over. But if everything I have heard about Cyberpunk 2077 is true, I will ejaculate all over. Moving away from the ejaculate and on to Ubisoft, quite a few things that looked interesting and quite a few that I was kind of meh about. Beyond Good and Evil 2. Based on the trailer, it looks like it's going to be a fucking legit game, but once again, same category as a lot of things. I don't like giving too much to a hype trailer until I see actual gameplay. If it's a hype trailer that does not have in-game footage, I don't put too many eggs in that basket. I kind of like what they're doing with, like, you know, outsourcing the art and then paying people to get their art featured in the game. I think that's really cool. But, you know, we'll see. I'm just going to leave it up to we'll see. The Division 2. Now, this is one that I'm really not sure about, because with the Division 1, it was a little bit bullet spongy, but I didn't dislike it necessarily. I played through the Division 1, I got to the end, and then I was like, oh, this is it, I guess. Well, this sucks. And I stopped. And my understanding is that similar to how they made Rainbow Six Siege come back and For Honor come back, they have done a complete overhaul of the Division, and apparently it's like actually fun to play. I feel like I'm a little bit too late to jump back into it now, but that is what I have heard. And I will say that, you know, in the past, I think Ubisoft for a while, they kind of had a reputation that was borderline Activision, EA, like not a lot of people liked Ubisoft. And I will say that I think more recently they have really, you know, they tied their shoelaces, pulled up their pants, and they said, fuck this, it's time to get to work. And they've been doing like a complete 180 as a company. I mean, with what they did with For Honor, I was extremely impressed. You know, Assassin's Creed Origins, I had a complete blast playing that. You know, the changes they made to Siege are huge. Like, everyone I know that plays Siege just raves over it. And if they keep this trend going, Division 2 has the potential to be a really good game, despite the shortcomings of Division 1. Because of the shortcomings of Division 1, I'm still going to reserve judgment. More than likely, I will play Division 2 when it comes out, but I'm not going to get on that hype train just yet. Skull and Bones, on the other hand, fuck yeah, daddy, give it to me right now. Pirate battle game, like, dude, I got to play that last year at E3 and was all about it, especially because I played it with, like, other press. And see, there's two types of gaming press these days. There's YouTubers and Twitch streamers. We're like new age press, and then there's old age press, which is like IGN, GameStop, Kotaku, like that side of press. And personal opinion, old age press is terrible when it comes to actually playing video games compared to new game press. So at Ubisoft press events, when it was like, okay, let's just play a little bit of Skull and Bones, it was me versus like a bunch of editors in their 40s, and I was just like, sinking your ship, sinking your ship, sinking your ship, sinking your ship, pirate captain of the universe, here we go, bitches. I was having a fucking blast, and I can't wait to do more of that. I was a huge fan of the pirate combat in Black Flag, and Skull and Bones has taken that and refined it further and added multiplayer, and I'm gonna be all over it. Like, that'll probably just fall right into a niche of once a week, let's just be a drunken pirate and go around shooting people. Yes, yes, all the yes. Moving on from there, Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Really did not expect this one. I did not think they were gonna have another AC this fast. Obviously, this is being made by a different studio from the one that made AC Origins. It does look good. I like that they have taken on a heavier RPG approach with, you know, like actual armor slot in each you know, you have helmet, chest, gloves, stuff like that. You actually have RBG elements in terms of like making a choice, and that choice is going to impact gameplay. And I mean, Ubisoft usually don't do very heavy into the RPG category, and we've seen Assassin's Creed kind of take this turn towards that, and a lot of people are being apprehensive about it. A lot of people don't like it. Personally, I'm a fan of it. You know, I think the core Assassin's Creed gameplay over the years got stale, and personally, I really like the direction that it's gone with AC Origins and AC Odyssey. I'm not sure the Assassin's Creed title really makes sense anymore. I mean, I find that I'm doing a lot more combat than actual assassin work. I feel assassination is kind of a second-hand citizen at this point, so maybe they need to come up with a new overarching title. But regardless of that, I do enjoy the game, and I'm sure I will enjoy Odyssey. Moving on from there, we had the Sony conference, and obviously the first thing we saw was Last of Us Part 2. Based on what I saw, I still don't believe it's actually real. Like, there were parts where, like most of the time watching Last of Us Part 2, I wasn't sure what was gameplay, what was cutscene. At first I was like, this whole thing's got to be scripted, but then there were times where I was catching small glimpses of like button prompts and whatnot, and if what we saw is the actual like game engine gameplay, holy shit, we are talking like game of the century. That is some amazing tier stuff. Last of Us, I did do a playthrough of. It's not on the channel. I streamed the entire thing. More than likely, I will replay that before Last of Us Part 2 comes out, because it is a good game. It's a very emotional game, and I think it's a game that, you know, just about everyone needs to experience, even if just watching. So Last of Us Part 2, definitely looking forward to that. So moving on from there, we had Ghost of Tsushima. I'm sure I'm butchering the pronunciation of that, so we're just going to call it Ghost. And a lot of people were curious of my thoughts on this, and honestly, I am not as hyped for this as I am Nioh 2 and Sekiro. Based on what we've seen of Ghost so far, it looks interesting. However, my big kind of hold up right now is the fact that it looks incredibly scripted. From the gameplay we've seen, it looks purely scripted. And the other thing that really bothered me was it seemed like we had a almost fixed camera angle. Like, the camera follows your character around, but you have no control over it. And with what's supposed to be an open world RPG, that's something that kind of bothers me, you know? If I'm in the middle of a sword fight with somebody, I want to be able to swing around and look at it from a different angle. I don't want to have this forced hip-shoulder type look. You know, even take God of War, for example. You have that look, but I can swing the camera around to look at something and turn my character quickly. And the gameplay was scripted to be so smooth and so fluid that in the demo, I mean, walking away from that demo, I feel like that's just how the camera is. And if that is the case, that would concern me a lot for what's supposed to be an open world RPG-esque game. If that turns out not to be the case, fuck yeah, give it to me. I'm all about samurai stuff, you guys know this, but that needs to be addressed. Moving on from there, they demoed something called Control, which looked interesting at first, but to be honest, it looked like Quantum Break 2.0 to me, and you guys know what happened with Quantum Break. That was just kind of a shit in the bucket, so I'm not going to get too hyped up for Control. Resident Evil 2 Remake. Holy shit. Like, fucking phenomenal looking. You know, like, Resident Evil 2 was one of the ones that I first got involved in when I played Resident Evil. I don't actually remember even playing the original Resident Evil. I remember playing 2, and seeing it like that, I was like, yo, what is this? This is amazing. And oh god, like, I mean, if you guys want to have your mind blown, like, Google like Resident Evil 2 remake versus original and just see like screenshots of areas and how they've been re-rendered and whatnot. And man, that looks like it's gonna be phenomenal. Up next, the game everyone's been talking about, Death Stranding. I still don't know what the hell that game is about. We were joking around in chat that you're actually a Amazon Prime delivery man in a dystopian future where there's invisible monsters that try to steal your packages. And to be honest, it's not that far off from what we saw. Like, a huge part of the trailer was him exploring and carrying packages, and then sometimes big packages and sometimes small packages. And I don't know why he's carrying all these packages. Just tell me, Sony, what are all these packages for? I don't know. And then the whole, you know, whatever these things touch, they age, and then you see Norman Reedus hook up the baby, and is it like the thing is going to touch him and he's going to age, so the baby is going to grow up, and that's how we have naked Norman Reedus, because he's injecting his own DNA into the baby, and it's a mini Norman Reedus? I don't know. There's so much going on in that mindfuck of a game that I think even when it's out and I have a chance to play it, I'm still not going to know what the hell is going on. I'm going to play it. That doesn't mean I'm going to understand it. And then, of course, the last thing we had was Spider-Man. Spider-Man looks alright. I mean, the combat kind of reminded me of Arkham-style stuff. To be honest, I like superhero stuff a lot, but I feel like most of the time superhero games aren't executed that well. I will be playing Spider-Man, of course, but I'm just, you know, I'm not going to... My dick's not hard from looking at Spider-Man. Last, but certainly not least... fucking Nintendo. Oh, Nintendo. Now, Nintendo didn't touch on too much this year, but man, they had some grand slams. Mario Party on the Switch. I can't wait. I've already ordered a spare set of Joy-Cons off of Amazon so that when that comes out, I can have, you know, me and 3 people and play, and we can rage at each other because it looks amazing. The updated Fire Emblem, that looks pretty dope. I am a average fan of Fire Emblem. I don't dick ride the Fire Emblem games, but I do enjoy playing them. And the new one, I really like that they've finally gone ahead and been like, all right, you know, let's pump this up. Let's keep what we have going on with Fire Emblem, but up the graphics a little bit. Hollow Knight finally on the fucking Switch. I know Hollow Knight's been out for a while, but I really wanted it as a to-go game on travel, and because of that, I kept waiting and waiting and waiting, and finally it's on the Switch, and I bought it, and I still haven't played it, but fuck yeah, it's finally here. And last thing, I mean, Smash Ultimate, like, I don't even need to say anything, like, holy shit. Every character in Smash ever, all the levels, like, wow. Like, I wouldn't even consider myself a giant fan of Smash. I play with friends from time to time. I have Smash on 3DS, but I was basically speechless watching the Smash Ultimate reveal. Like, it just kept coming and coming and coming. It was nuts. So that's definitely on my hype list now, like something that, assuming Nintendo gets their online network, and I was hoping to hear details about that, but if that's all up and running, Smash Ultimate online with viewers on stream, you know it's going to happen. But either way, guys, that is going to wrap things up for my E3 perceptions. I'm sure there's a couple games that I may have forgotten to touch upon. If there's one in particular that you're curious about, just drop a mention to it down in the comments below. Obviously, this isn't every game that was shown at E3, but based on the big dick reveals, these are my thoughts based on those, kind of what I'm going to be playing versus what I'm really not interested in. If there's something that I didn't mention and it was part of a bigger conference, chances are I'm probably just not that interested in it. For those kind of confused, I mean, for example, there's you know, Just Cause 4 that was announced. I'm probably not going to play it. The new Skate game, probably not going to play it. The Forza, not going to play it. Crackdown, probably not going to play it. I mean, I might, but we'll see. I mean, Tomb Raider, that might play it, but we'll see. But yeah, so either way, thanks for coming by and watching. Appreciate you guys supporting me in the Booty Nation, and we'll catch you next time.